Hello, and welcome to this week's Everyday Inclusion and Belonging, where we talk about everything under the sun as it relates to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I am Mo Berkner-Boyd. I'm the founder of the Moxie Exchange and the Everyday Inclusion app. I'm a white woman. I've got my hair curly today. It is red. I threw some purple highlights in the back just for fun. I'm wearing some red frames, a blue shirt, and I have my bookcase behind me. I'm so grateful to be having this conversation today with you, Margie. In particular, right now in the United States and globally, trans, non-binary, LGBTQ community is under attack. And it is up to those with privilege, whether that's cisgender or like all of it, to be allies. And to step up and to spend our privilege. So really grateful, Margie, that you are joining to share how we can be better allies and what we can do to do the work. So please introduce yourself, and then we're going to dig in, and you all take notes because I'm serious about now is the time for us to step up as allies. So Margie, welcome.
Wow, what an intro. First of all, thank you very much for having me. It's great. I always feel very grateful actually to, be able to speak from my experience and in assertive way, sometimes, representing the community. What we don't want to do, of course, is always like speaking for other people's experiences, and that's always very important. But I do think that when we have these platforms, we do have to use them to to spread the word and try to make the world a better place. And well, who am I? My name is Margie. My pronouns are they them. I'm a non-binary and mental health advocate. I'm a content creator. I work in communication. I am an activist also on the grassroots level here in Brussels, where I'm based. And I would say most of all, I'm a person who loves to share. Sometimes I think overshare, but when it comes especially to like being trans and non-binary identities, we never share enough, in my opinion. So it's always good to kind of give a little push, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Well, and I think thank you, welcome. And I think what is really interesting is we are also two white, non-disabled people having this conversation. So I love when you're like, you have this platform to share. So I think it's great, even the privilege that you do have, that you're using it to help create a more inclusive world, which is
Totally. Also,
fantastic.
yes, I forgot to describe myself. I'm a white person with white hair. I have a purple shirt, blouse. I never know what Americans say. And I have a blurred background because my background is very boring. So I don't have, the fancy bookcase that important people have.
So let's dig in.
Yes.
I believe people are more comfortable and understand pronouns and the importance of sharing pronouns. We have a whole, it's interesting, Margie, I shared this before. In the app, our data is showing that the gender neutral pronouns, both for groups and for individuals, is still some of the most searched, favorited, viewed content in the app. So people really, it seems, are really leaning in to understanding that piece of it. And we'll talk about that at the individual level. I want us to talk first at the organizational level. What's the responsibility for organizations, and what can organizations do to create workplaces of inclusion and belonging for non-binary folks?
Yeah. Well, so I would like to start that this, like everything that I say comes from my experience. So I do not have experience as, kind of a leader of a big organization. So, but at the same time, I think that because I do have lived experience, and I am, part of that group of people that can really provide inputs that can make things better. on an organizational level, I think it's always important to remember that organizations, especially, when they become a bit bigger, they work on different processes. There are processes for everything. There is, a funnel for this and, a document for that. And also when it comes to inclusion for trans and non-binary people, these kind of processes of things that we just, things that might seem simple or like just, something we do normally, they become extremely important. For instance, first of all, something probably cis people don't think about, documents. Organizations handle a lot of private documents of trans and non-binary people. Lots of trans and non-binary people have documents that do not correspond to their identity. So I do have my legal documents that have my birth name, which is not the name that I use to introduce myself. So that is, for instance, the first, one of the first and most simple things that an organization should do is clarify what are the processes in terms of documents and recognition and so on that a person has to undergo, and try to make these processes, the least stressful possible. Because every time I have to read a document with my legal name on it and sign it, and I know that, people in HR know that, it's very stressful. So I think that having like on the side a sort of like, sort of clarification, such as, we ask you to sign these documents for these and these reasons. We are aware that the name and data and so on that are on this paper do not reflect your identity. We do, inform you that we keep this information private, etc., etc., etc. There should be, it's normal. They're not usually, at least, people are not going to tell your name to other people, but as a trans and non-binary person, having an extra clarification, an extra confirmation that you're protected, it is very important. And it's just a very strong signal that the organization is an ally. They're like, we understand this can be a problem. We're here to support that. I had this problem, I don't want to say often, but it happened at work, because we have to report the work that we do to donors. Here in Europe, we have the European Commission and so on. And so there's always been a sort of can you ask this person what name I should use? And then the whole thing goes around and around. It's very stressful. So just starting from the beginning, understanding how important a name is and how important the handling legal documents is for a trans and non-binary person. That's really, I would say, the first step. Because you join an organization, you have to send a document. You do something, you have to sign a document. Just, remember that this is very important. And I think cis people sometimes do not understand, how impactful signing a document with your dad name on it can be.
Yeah.
So
that's so right. And that's such an easy thing to do, right? To add that language to the document, right? Saying, we understand, right? This is confidential. This is, and I'm going to make an assumption, and then I would like you to clarify, that making sure that documents also include, we're not just asking for male, female, right? If I'm having to fill out paperwork, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, if you need to have a gender information, totally do not put male and female. I've seen lots of changes recently. So there are still organizations or institutions that still put the binary one, but I've seen lots of changes. So I'm very positive on that. But yes, absolutely, when it comes to gender, it would be nice in documents, especially if it's just something related to the organization, just and if you have to put your legal name, just also put the chosen name. In this way, you have, for instance, I signed a document myself that I have. This is my my legal name. These are my documents. I do sign as this, and this name, Margie, refers to these documents signed.
Love it, right? But having that too, here's my chosen name, right? So here's my name at birth, here's my chosen name, here's my gender assigned at birth. If you even Like that piece, I think, is really interesting. Organizations even asking, do we even need that information? I think that's we've always asked for this. Do we need it? And why do we need it? I think even questioning,
Totally.
right? That instead of like, what are we actually doing with this information?
Absolutely, but this is something that happens for really a lot of things also related to inclusion, and I think we're gonna go a bit deeper later into, for instance, like the using like using pronouns, how to use them. Everybody puts pronouns in email signatures, but do you really then use that? Like the fact, of course, it's great that you signal your name with your pronouns in your emails, but what does it mean? Are you then, like noticing other people's? Are you using it? Are you actively, introducing yourself with your pronouns, even if you're a cis person in all professional meetings? And this especially, on a higher level. But in terms of organization, I think that because using of pronouns and so on, it's like very individual, and it changes also the importance that it has, the visibility that it has changes according to the role you have. On an organizational level, I think the most important thing is creating like an inclusive environment, so to put on all those practices that make someone feel safe, because
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, whatever happens, I know that here I'm recognized as a trans non-binary person, and they do know what that means. And then we can start working together, and we can see, how that kind of relationship develops. But if we lack the understanding at the beginning of what it means to have a trans non-binary employee, especially in smaller organizations, maybe organizations that do not have ERGs, they do not have like big exposure to trainings and so on, that you need to make sure that they feel safe, as if you would have, let's say, an employee with disabilities that need accessibility measures, and you want to make sure that they know that you do have these accessibility measures that you put in place. So that's a bit, I would say, that the beginning.
I love that. So here's a question. Let's talk about restrooms, right? And bathrooms.
Ah,
Um, right, which is like the lightning rod here in the US. People lose their minds about bathrooms.
I
And don't understand the very true. So y'all, I want you to imagine, as a cisgender person, you are in your workplace and there are bathrooms that are labeled, and the very real impact of how many non-binary and trans people literally will not use the restroom
Yeah.
throughout the day because of the environment that creates for them. So imagine you can't go to the bathroom all day, or you have to leave your workplace and go somewhere where there is a restroom that is for all. So, Margie, I don't know if you want to go there or not,
I
but I
mean,
want organizations
yeah,
thinking about the very real impact that the labels on your restrooms have.
yeah, totally. I mean, I think that it's not like, of course, there's like a physical impact. There's also like a very strong mental, effort that you have to make. And like, before like maybe going a bit into this, I just want to remind people that there are loads of gender neutral bathrooms around. You don't even know they're gender neutral because nobody told you, but the bathroom on an airplane is gender neutral. If you're in a bar, usually there's one bathroom, it's gender neutral. Nobody ever questioned that. So the fact that if there's bathrooms,
Starbucks,
yeah,
right? Like,
like it's not that
like
big of a deal, really. And I think, like, especially, I think it has been used a lot as a narrative to like shift the attention, from like structural problems, the fact that trans and non-binary people are not respected, really are not acknowledged as human beings. They're just like, oh yeah, whatever, that's your thing. To bathrooms that I'm like, it's generally is that, the biggest issue, because like a bathroom, like if you take off the little sign that you have on the door, you do not have to change anything. Like there are measures, so there are measures of safety that it comes, because also want to highlight that when people talk about, you know, safety in gender neutral bathrooms, most of the time they're talking about men men harassing women and non-binary folks and other trans people. Like if a trans or non-binary person comes to the bathroom, they just have to go to the bathroom as everybody else. But the narratives usually has been built around the fact that, you know, there are men that then pretend to be trans women and then they use the women's bathroom to harass women or whatever. I'm like, you're saying that the problem are men, like men are the problem in this narrative if you frame it like that. But they kind of, you know, walk around it and like just, you know, put trans people in the middle, you know, without really like a reason behind it. So yeah, if an organization
I call,
really,
go
sorry.
ahead. Oh, I was going to say, I call that a head fake, right? Where it's like creating something over here to cause this big
Yeah, yeah,
distraction
yeah,
that and you said that, right? From the real systemic issues. So y'all don't let your bathrooms be the thing that,
yeah. Exactly.
you're choosing to, and I want to remind people that when people feel excluded, the same neural pathways fire as physical pain.
Oh yeah.
So take the signs off your bathrooms, right? And just have a restroom.
Yeah, yeah, totally. For instance, in the building where I work, it's like divided into like two blocks. One block has a gender neutral bathroom, which means we have one bathroom, and like that's the one that people use. And on the other building, there are, you know, like men and women. We still have stuff on the wall like, ladies, if you use a tampon, don't throw it into the toilet. And I'm like, do you really have to write ladies? Do you know that, you know, people have periods regardless, you know, if they're ladies or not? But yes, this is something that I was like really a bit worried when I read it. But the thing is like, you know, we use gender neutral bathrooms and we don't even know it. So if you take the sign,
I love that example, Margie. I love that. We were like on an airplane, right? In most
in your
bars,
home,
restaurants,
do
like,
you have you know, do you have gendered bathrooms in your home? Like, you know, like we get to there. It's not really, you know, that difficult. That's why like I don't understand what's the big problem for people, you know, we can talk about the fact that women are afraid of men. And this is like something that, you know, I think should get more attention than trans people, I don't know, will do something in bathrooms, which I never really understood. And as an organization, just decided not to engage in such a narrative by just having a bathroom. I think that would
love it.
be honestly just a solution. You do not even engage in the conversation. So
I
but I
absolutely
think
love it.
I think it's simpler than it looks like, but at the same time we just do not, sometimes we do not want to put the effort in, you know, like just explaining why. No, why did you do that? You know, because someone can be like, because we want to be inclusive of everybody. And then I don't know, I guess they feel nervous or
Well,
stressed.
and then I love, right? This is another example of just because we've always done something, some like why? Like,
Yeah.
let's go back to why did we do that? Is that serving the purpose of, and this is a great example too of when you do something like this, when you create inclusion for
Yes.
the most marginalized groups, you're creating inclusion for all.
Oh,
Right. So this is right. This is one of those where, you know, half the time, if it's a woman's bathroom, the line is forever versus the men's bathroom, right? Like you're creating inclusion for all. And I love that, Margie, equipping people with this, having them think through like your bathroom at home is not right. You don't have gendered bathrooms at home or on the airplanes, or right. So to shift and say, actually, most public restrooms and private restrooms are gender neutral.
yeah.
So let's get rid of them in the workplace. Great. Um, let's talk about leaders. What is the role and responsibility of a leader to create an inclusive environment on their team for non-binary and transgender team members?
Well, that I think is crucial, is vital. I personally experienced it myself very recently. I think leaders, first of all, should remember that they are leaders, they are role models, and like people in their team, not only respect them, but they know that they are gonna, find basically their validation at work from their leaders, from their managers, if they have like a leader and a manager that cares about their team. And so I think that they have to know that they are the ones setting the example. You cannot leave your employees with the responsibility of, especially you cannot leave your LGBTQ plus employees with the responsibility of setting the example for you, because you do not have the time or the will, or you don't want to put the effort into understanding what your role is. Because being a manager, being a leader, being a supervisor, it's not only related to the work you do, it's related to the role you have in a team. And when you are a leader in a team, you are the one setting the rules. So if my leader, I don't know, if they feel free to leave work at I don't know, at 5, and a bit earlier because they want to go and play soccer, I will feel comfortable to leave slightly earlier to do something that it's good for me. This is like very simple.
Yep.
If my supervisor leaves at 9 p.m., after staying in the office all day, working all day, no breaks and so on, I will feel much more stressed to leave earlier one day because I want to go for a run. Because
Yep.
the example that I'm seeing is the norm is staying here until 9 p.m. because that is our life. So, and this is like just the same for inclusion, and especially for trans and non-binary inclusion. For the when people use pronouns, I saw in my organization like a lot that at the beginning, like I work in this organization, they're all great people, but they never worked with a non-binary person before. So when it came to pronouns, the first months were very, very hard because first of all, we work half remotely, so we do not have the practice that often. But at the same time, there was nobody, I feel, that kind of took the responsibility of setting the examples for the other people in the team. I was the one reminding people of my pronouns. I was the one kind of carrying the responsibility of making sure that everything was inclusive for me. They were
say, and not just the responsibility, but the burden.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Right.
I didn't want to use that word because, but yeah, totally. It's like it's a big effort, like mental effort, physical effort. And they didn't do it because they didn't care. It's just they didn't know how to do it. So it was like my job in these months to do it. And at some point, I feel like something clicked. A few colleagues started to follow me on LinkedIn, and they started to ask me, what can I do? And at some point I told them, use my pronouns, correct others. If they talk about me and you're there and I'm not there, correct them. And when these kind of practices go on a leader level, then people are much more influenced to use the right pronouns. Like I recently had a new colleague that was like on a leadership role compared to me and other colleagues of mine. And he was great with my pronouns, like really impressive. I mean, I say impressive, it shouldn't be, right? Like it should be the norm. But from my experience, I was like, wow, this is like so strong, so nice. And in like a very short time, the team just picked up like they became so much better, and they were already, on the right path, but the improvement was incredible, from my perspective. And I think from there also the feeling of being part of that team for me, for that I am the non-binary person there, it just became so much nicer. I felt just so much happier to go in the office because it was like, finally, these people see me, like they really do. And they do because a couple of people on a more like managerial level, they decided to take the responsibility of setting the example. So I think this is very important for managers to understand. You have to put in the work. You cannot be a manager and ignore this. If you're a manager, this is one of your priorities because you manage people. One of your responsibilities is managing people.
Well, and right, it's setting the culture. We talk about micro cultures, right? Really being driven by that manager, right? So um, for those of you that are what can and are watching this, I don't know if you saw, you could physically see in Margie as they were sharing how this leader modeled it. Like I could physically see, Margie, your feeling of inclusion, right? And that difference. So I
And
think y'all, it is, go ahead.
no, I would say the cool thing about this is that, of course, you work better, you're more creative, you deliver more, you want to go in the office. Like it's just such a like boost of energy. And so in the end, also, from a more, I don't know, kind of corporate perspective, you have all the interests in making sure that your people feel included and understood
Yeah.
and appreciated, because in the end I really felt difference in my energy, in my will to go to the office. So yeah, I think and this is, I'm sure it's valid for me and for so many other people.
Well, and I want, y'all, this is something that isn't new, and certainly isn't going away. So when you're like, it feels awkward, or your example of that there are already gender neutral bathrooms, folks, y'all already use gender neutral pronouns
Yeah.
all the time without realizing it. Right? Where you're talking about they, if you don't know somebody, right? Or groups of people. So get used to and work through any personal discomfort that you might have, because soon you'll be able to do it without even thinking about it. Now it's really interesting, Margie. I am from the Midwest here in the States, and you guys is like this vernacular, right? Everybody, you guys, you guys, you guys. It took me a solid 6 months, right, of being very, very intentional of getting rid of that language. Now, even just saying it then, it felt awkward coming out of my mouth. So it is, as we're learning anything new, keep doing it, right? And you're going to screw up and you might misgender somebody. And if you do, sorry, they, and move on. And don't make it about, oh, I didn't mean it, and make the big hoo-ha, because that becomes about you, right? Is just simply sorry or apologies, correct gender, move on. And I think that the most recent data coming out here in the United States, when I say this is not going away, thankfully, I'm so happy to say that. And I will make sure that I have the statistic right. And if I have it wrong, I will put it in the chat. 20% of those folks 18 and under are identifying as non-binary or trans, right? So 1 in 5, right? And if you look just at the curve, so I'm thrilled that we are finally, and when I say this, right, non-binary trans people are not new,
Oh,
right?
no.
But we're finally in an environment, right, where we are having this conversation, Margie, right? Where organizations are having the conversation. So I knew this was going to be a great conversation. Is there anything that I can do that individuals can do? And I love, you already sort of shared, right? Some people reaching out to you on LinkedIn saying, what can I do? What are some of the most powerful things? Obviously using the right pronouns.
Yes.
Do you have any other?
I would say using the right pronouns, of course. Also, introduce yourself with your pronouns. Please, like I ask you from my heart, I cannot be the only person, in a meeting introducing myself with my pronouns. if I see someone, a cis person, introducing them, or a binary person, so we don't know if someone's trans, binary or not. So if I see someone introducing themselves with their pronouns, it just
Mm.
makes me feel so much safer because I know that they know the importance of it. Because otherwise, it's like, oh yes, I see they use, you use she, her, so you don't say, and I say, I use they, them. So it just becomes I am the one saying it, and cis people don't do it. Whereas if you do it, I just feel I'm one of you. I'm part of the group. I'm not, this weird thing, on the outside.
Well, and
So
you know what's interesting, and I so appreciate you saying that, right? Because folks, you can see that I have the she, her in my, right, it's in my email signature, it's on my LinkedIn, I'm on my LinkedIn, it's here in my Zoom. But when I
yeah,
introduced myself and described myself, I did not share my pronouns,
yeah,
right? So that's just, right, making it a habit of my name, right? Like it is a part of my name almost. So
yeah.
thank you for that, right? And I would say 25% of the time I do that, my goal has got to be 100%.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to say, I don't always do it because sometimes I do not feel comfortable. People see my pronouns, because I have it on Zoom, I have it on my signature, I have it on everything, literally. But then sometimes I don't say because I see that I am the only person like doing that, and I'm just like, this time I don't really feel like feeling awkward, because that's what it means when someone doesn't share their pronouns, and I'm the only person doing it. I just feel awkward and tired and frustrated. It's just like opening, you open the door and all these things come in, because you
Yeah.
always have to remember there's like we have a lived experience of being misgendered like so much
Yep.
every day, all the time. And
Exhausting.
we feel guilty for that. I'm always like, oh, of course it's my fault because I do not look trans enough, I do not look non-binary enough, whatever that means. So we just put all this responsibility on ourselves instead of just existing, which is what we
Mm.
like to do.
Yeah.
So creating, really setting this example means setting it for yourself and for others. And also, and this is something that I think is very important, ask people, like ask, how do you want me to address you? How do you want to do this? Like I remember an ex-supervisor of mine that once she was very good with my pronouns, she was amazing. And one day we were talking about something and she was like, hey dude. And I was like, and then she was like, oh, sorry, do you like that? And I was like, you know what? I kind of do like that. And so that became our thing. And, and she was like, addressing me as dude. And it was like just so validating. So just ask someone, if you use a word that you're like, oh, wait, is this okay? How does this make you feel?
Is this
And
okay?
yeah, you just move on. How do you want me to address you? You mentioned, when someone says, hey guys, and it is annoying because it is gendered. But as a non-binary trans mask person, I have like my team, like I have a male colleague, which is like when we work like a lot together, and when someone addresses us at work, it's often like, hey guys, you guys, what are you doing? And for me, it's just staying there and like having my little moment in the hey guys greeting
Yeah.
makes me feel great. So but this is like very personal. There is no way for you to
I was gonna
know.
I was gonna say that is you get there, um, and to that by actually having inclusion and belonging, right? To
Yeah,
be able to, right, see you, right, and personalize to you. So I love that, right? Because then it's truly like, yeah, dude, works for me right now because it's coming from you, and I know that you see my full identity. So I think that's the right. That's like the perfect example of inclusion and belonging.
I mean,
So
I guess so. And it's like, but you cannot get there if you don't have the basics before, if you don't have like a safe
exactly.
space.
You can't jump to that because then what you're doing is a suit, right? They're doing all the things that
Yeah,
we said not to. So I think that is um, that's the joy and the hell of this, right? It's never cut and dry, and it's always staying so curious and
Yeah.
leaning into your role, your responsibility. Because don't I want you to light up, right? And feel, and don't I want you and I to have a relationship that feels so good and we're working so well together? That's the end goal of all of this.
And that's
Right?
just
Is
fulfilling for everybody, right? Like as a also, as a
yes,
leader, you feel amazing if you see, your team, thriving and feeling great. So in
yes,
the end, we all win.
yes, exactly. That's so okay. Um, we are well over time. I guess that this would happen very quickly. Margie, can you share if somebody is transitioning?
Mhm.
So let's say I've known somebody as him and with let's say him and Jim is
Mhm.
right. So that's how he's introduced himself. That Jim is now living his true gender identity. He's transitioning. Um, his name is changing. Their name is changing. Their pronouns are changing. That can be right for the person transitioning. Obviously, a very vulnerable time, uh, and for coworkers wanting to do right by that person.
Yes.
Any tips, advice? Right? I'm
Yeah.
assuming that I'm following that person's lead,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um, I want to hear. I want to hear from you. What can folks do?
Well, I would say when someone's transitioning, especially at work, and they decide to stay, which is not always the case, it's very important to make them feel like part of the team in that sense. And so I think it's very like it's a responsibility that you don't have individually, but you have as a team. So I think that the first thing is like as soon as they tell you, this is my name, these are my pronouns, practice. You cannot get names and pronouns right after months, years that you've called someone with a name if you do not practice with it. So just meet with your colleagues or at home, like just have small kind of fake conversations in which you address that person with the right pronouns and the right name. I had a friend doing that for
Mhm.
me. I have this friend I've known for like 10 past 15, oh my, I don't even remember how many years. Anyway, and at some point, I told her, like, these are my pronouns, this is my name. You're gonna come to Brussels. You're gonna meet my, chosen family. They are, they know me as Margie. They know these are my pronouns. She practiced at the mirror by herself, and when she came, she was great. She had like one or two, moments, but besides that, she was amazing. And this is a person that just loved me. And as co-workers, we just ask him to respect. So first of all, put respect in the first place, practice, because you show and you lead by example.
Yeah.
So these I think are the most important things. If you want to do something special, if you have a close connection with that coworker, you can ask them if they want to share more, if they want to, if ask them if there's something you can do to make them feel more comfortable, because
Mm.
we are all different. So maybe, I don't know, some people get, I don't know, their kind of birthday cake with the new name. There's like some people that transition do that. It's like, I think, a very nice and cute moment. You could do that for them, but you have to ask them first if that is something they would appreciate, you know some, of course,
Well, and
change. No, continue,
oh, you
continue.
were saying that this about pronouns earlier. I would say also as an ally, if somebody is using that person's dead name or their old pronouns
Yeah.
and they're not there, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that you are consistently saying,
Correct
no, it's
address.
they, right? Yep.
Yes. Be absolutely. This is something I think probably I forgot to mention, but it's extremely important. Be an ally when there are no queer people around. When you are with your cis friends, be an ally there, because it's easy to be an ally, when you are in a place where there's just gonna be someone else kind of, supporting you, but you have to do it when no one's looking, and for instance, like knowing that you have colleagues that will advocate for you when you're not there, it's just like so much better, makes things so much easier for everybody. And I think as allies, you do have less, you feel this burden a bit less. You don't have the kind of personal existential implication of what it means to transition, so you can use this kind of little privilege in this situation to advocate, to make sure that you create the environment for the person. It's not the person creating the environment for themselves.
Love, 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 love. Um, okay. I told you all to take notes. I hope you did. Margie, thank you for your generosity
Thank you.
in having this conversation, in helping. And I started this conversation by saying, y'all, right now is the time as cis binary, all the privilege, stand up. This is a community that is in experiencing trauma right now, and is being targeted right now. So you want, right now is and always is time to do the right thing. And Margie just shared a whole lot of very tangible ways to stand up and be an ally. So Margie, I want you to leave me with one last truth bomb about inclusion for trans non-binary folks in the workplace.
Yeah, so I think I did have my truth bomb. Am I changing it? Slightly. It's gonna be 1.5, I think, truth bombs. One is like the setting, and one is probably a bit more personal. I think what I wanted to say is that remember that we're talking about inclusion in the workplace, but people make the workplace. So remember, you are talking about people. You're not talking about objects. Sometimes I hear very hurtful narratives like, oh yeah, if you identify as that, then identify as a dog or whatever. Are you talking about my identity as a human being, comparing it to you just making fun? And like, it's just, for me, it's just so terrible just thinking about it. So I want to say, you're talking about people. There are human beings there that deserve the respect and attention and like all the support you can give them. And we are not opinions. You are not allowed to have an opinion on my life. You can decide to stick around or go away because you don't like me, but the fact that I identify as non-binary and I have my rights as a person in the workplace, outside the workplace, as a non-binary person is not an opinion. And you people have to stop doing that, because it's getting a bit too much personally. So yeah, I think this is what I feel at the moment.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Just huge, huge gratitude. This was a really, really important conversation. And thank you. So,
Thank you.
you
It was
know,
lovely.
get out there and do the next right thing. And I hope we've all left this conversation as a little bit better people. So thank you, Margie.
Thank you. It was great talking to you. Thank you very much.
See you next week, everybody.